Hey guys, it's time for another book review. This time we are doing it on... Stephen King's 2014 novel, Revival. Revival is Stephen King's modern venture back into the horror genre. He's coming off of writing Mr. Mercedes, which was a crime thriller novel, and he wrote 11/22/63, another crime but mostly time travel sci-fi novel before that. A lot of Stephen King fans in 2014, especially after the release of Mr. Mercedes, they enjoyed Mr. Mercedes, but they were very worried that Stephen King had ditched the horror genre. But when he came out with this book, they were like, never mind. To be straight and honest with you, I don't even know where to start with this book. I'm writing the script of this about an hour after I finished reading this book, and I've never been more affected by a book in this kind of vein. I don't feel sad, I don't feel disappointed, I don't feel angry, I just feel like my heart has been torn right out of my chest. I know it sounds stupid, but this book really is... It's something. Let's just try to review this normally, okay? So, we'll start off with the length. My copy of Revival is... how long is it? 372 pages. So, it isn't particularly long, but here's the catch with it. This book spans 6 decades. So, yeah, this decently short book spans a massive amount of time. And that means that this book moves super well. And I have no issues with the pacing. And if you've seen any of my other Stephen King book reviews, you'll know that's a qualm that I have with a few of his books. Now, normally around this part of the video is when I tell you the plot of the book. And to be honest, I don't really want to give away too much about this book. I don't like to give anything more than the plot synopsis usually, but I read this book going into it knowing next to nothing about it, and it's been one of my favourite experiences of reading, so I'll just give you a general overview and tell you what I knew about the book going into it. This book is told from the first person perspective of Jamie Morton, and it's essentially his life story. It starts out when he's a 6-year-old, and then it just goes from there. There is themes of addiction, music, religion, science, and most importantly, life and death in this book. That's all I knew going into it, and to be honest, I don't want to go into much detail about the plot, because the plot and severe conflict of the book don't really come in until about 3/4 of the way through, which may make it sound dull, but trust me, it's really not. It's really not at all. This book shares a lot of similarities with the likes of H.P. Lovecraft, to the point that the first page of the book actually has a quote from him. It also shares similar themes to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, mostly with the themes of addiction and science, or more accurately, being addicted to science experiments and stuff. Being a big fan of music really boosted my enjoyment of this book. As a guitarist myself, Stephen King did his research with it all, and it was one of my favourite elements of the book. Another one of my favourite books of his is Christine, and this is a very musical book too. But I love music, I love the way they're implemented into both of these books, and it just made me love Revival even more. The characters in this book are great. Jamie in particular is fantastic. Again, we literally go through his life story, and it's just... you get to know him so well. And he's a very flawed and very real-feeling human. The villain of the story, who I won't name, is one of my favourite Stephen King villains of all time, for reasons which I won't disclose because that'd be a spoiler, but the villain of this story is fabulous. And now, without any spoilers of course, let's talk about why this book impacted me so much. The fucking ending. From the way this book was heading, I knew that it was going to have a very scary conclusion. But I had no idea what the ending of the story was going to be, and I had no clue how much I was just going to be like, oh shit. And that's one of my favourite parts of Stephen King books, is when the outcome to the book is unpredictable in some ways. For books like Pet Sematary and Dr. Sleep, you have an idea about what's going to come, and those are both great books. I'm not holding it against them in any way, because they're both fantastic books, and I think the kind of like, you know, knowingness of what's going to happen just increases the dread even more. But with Revival, I don't think anyone would see the ending coming whatsoever. It builds up dread so well, and you just know that the outcome isn't going to be nice. And then you finally get there, and it's one of the most bleak and brutal climaxes to a story ever. I know not all stories need to end with roses and happiness, but Jesus, good lord. You're just left with nothing but your own thoughts and feelings after finishing this book. And it's one of my new favourite endings of his, just because of how disturbed and distressed it made me feel. Revival gets a 94% from me. The only reason it doesn't get 100 is because it isn't the world's most rereadable book. I'm not holding that as a qualm or a nitpick I have against the book, because it perfectly builds up the dread and terror inside you. But the feeling inside you is nasty when you read this book. And it feels like a piece of you is gone and it's not going to come back. And that's the thing. You really hope that that piece of you will be replaced. But at the end of the day, you're not sure if it will. So that's why, because it's not the kind of book that you want to go back and reread too often, because it just leaves you feeling horrible. Anyway, that's been another book review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. Bye.